Morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Media Matters by Anfield Index. It's a special, this one, ladies and gentlemen, because it's been quiet on our front, hasn't it, around transfers? However, late last night, a name breaks, doesn't it? And things seem to be moving fast. And well, they should do because there's not long left in this window. And when it's linked to an Italian footballer, there's only one person we can get. ESPN senior writer, Corriere dello Sport correspondent, and one half of the Gab and Jules show. It is the renowned and the respected Gab Marcotti. Gab, how are we?
I'm good after that introduction. Renowned and respected. I hope I don't let you down. You're very kind.
No doubts at all. And this one, Gab, Federico Chiesa, an interesting player, well known on the continent. There's a million things we want to ask you about this. So we'll talk about the deal first of all, because as you know, naturally, there can sometimes be a disconnect between what's reported in the UK press and what could be reported on the Italian side as well. So the latest from the UK side is around, give or take, £12 million, depending on how well euros are exchanged at the post office. Talk of wages not being an issue. Is that what you're hearing from the Italian side, that this could be close with Liverpool?
So I haven't been reporting on this story, so I'm not going to pretend I've got any ITK knowledge here. What I can tell you is this is Italy and England are reporting exactly the same thing, which many years ago would be an indication, oh, there's something in that. Now, to be honest, the world is such a small place. Everybody's getting their news from Fabrizio Romano, who kind of straddles it too. No, I'm kidding. Obviously, Fabrizio is very good. People are checking it out. People are confirming it. I think it's probably more accurate to say for some time now, Italian media have been reporting that Juventus wanted 20 million, but would take 15 million. And it's euros, right? So that if you said 50 million pounds, right?
Yeah.
That would strike me as that's kind of the asking price. Look, we ran the numbers on this on the Gab and Jules show, right? And people may wonder, oh, well, Chiesa is still 26 years old. I think he turns 27 in October. Why would Juventus be letting him go, especially when they did such a song and dance with him and it was so acrimonious when they signed him from Fiorentina? They did this weird formula where it was like a 2-year loan with a payment, whatever. And I think the simple fact of the matter is obviously things that have changed at Juve. They made enormous losses during COVID and afterwards. And it's not just because of COVID. It's also not just because of Cristiano Ronaldo. All you haters out there, not his fault. But obviously the ownership has changed as well. There have been some legal cases as well. They've been investigated by the Italian Stock Exchange. So essentially they're all tightening their belts now. And they look at this and they say, okay, Chiesa makes a ton of money, first and foremost, by where Juve are at right now. It's around 13 million euros gross a year, which I think translates to around about 200 grand a week, if that's how people think, which right now, I mean, Juventus can pay it for certain players, but it would probably rather not pay it for him. He's got a year left on his contract, which is obviously, I think, one of the main drivers here. As you all know, you have your own things going on with Trent and Van Dijk and Salah, but in a perfect world, ducks in a row with a year left, most clubs either move the player or they extend the deal. I think Juventus don't feel that they want to extend the deal because he is a really, really big earner for where they are now and for the type of footballer that he is versus what they're trying to what they're trying to do with Thiago Motta, the new boss, which is sort of younger. I don't want to say more dynamic because Chiesa is still, I think, a very dynamic player, but younger players are cheaper. There's no getting around that. And so he doesn't really fit that. So if they can get the wages off the bill and get some money back, I think Juventus are happy. And I've yacked away for a long time. I can give you kind of the numbers where he fits in the books, which is essentially the residual value on Juve's books. I believe, given he's got a year left of his amortization, is around 8 million euros.
Okay.
So just over 6 million. So theoretically, Liverpool could offer that, make a deal with Chiesa, and boom, Juventus would benefit if they let him go. Obviously, Juventus want a little more than that, mindful of the fact that, he's out of the squad, and that a year from now, they would lose him on a free.
Yeah, it will be interesting there. And I was going to ask you, because you described him as a dynamic player there. For us in the UK that maybe don't follow the Serie A week in, week out, a lot of players or people will think about Chiesa as that player who was a star for the Italian Euro winning team, won't they? A winger, but they'll also think, and they'll have seen news about his injuries. From a playing style gap, does he still have that sort of dynamic pace? Would you still describe him as a dynamic winger? Is that a fair assessment?
I think you definitely would call him dynamic. Obviously, I know Italian football slower, blah, 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 all those types of the Premier League. And obviously, Liverpool play an up-tempo game. But again, Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes know what they're doing. There's no question that when he's fit, and if you watched, I think the one game Italy played well at the Euros, maybe even the one half, the opener against Albania, you saw that this is a guy who takes people on, right? He's quick, he's fearless, and I think he still had that. He had that at the Euros, and this is after at least 2 really bad injuries that he's had in his career. The question is, can he stay fit? I'm looking at this now. He started 25 games last year for Juve. This is league games. 6 the year before that, 11 the year before that, 28 the year before that, but then 31 the year before that between Fiorentina and Juve. So that's the question, right? He's had this tough break at Juve. That's one for the medical people to really assess, right? I wouldn't want to go there. But yeah, to answer that question, if he's fit, he is dynamic, and he fits. Whether he's better than what you already have, it's a whole other issue.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Like, we won't go there with the medical people. I suppose it'll be a number crunching element. And I suppose speaking of number crunching, Motta's come in. Obviously, he's highly regarded, a unique style that he plays. Do you think it is just essentially the numbers? Because that's naturally a concern when Liverpool fans look at that. Like, why is he not in the Juventus team? Or is it a stylistic element? What do you think the sort of clash is there at the moment?
So I think this is where you kind of have to look at clubs and messaging and stuff like that. The line from the club hasn't been that, oh, we want rid of Chiesa because he's rubbish, or he makes too much money. They haven't said that. They've said, oh, he doesn't fit Thiago Motta's style. Thiago Motta's a young manager, is a new manager. I think he kind of said, all right, whatever. This guy's going to probably move on anyway. Even if he doesn't, he'll be gone as a free agent in a year's time. Sure, he doesn't fit my style. I guarantee you that if he had 4 years left on his deal, I'd figure out how to make him feel the style, right? But he's happy to kind of be the fall guy and to put out this narrative that, oh, there's nothing wrong with Chiesa. It's simply a fact that he doesn't fit the style. I think he could fit the style easily. But equally, if you're Chiesa, you're saying, hey, look, I'm 26, I'm going to be 27 next year. Juve have taken a gamble with Thiago Motta. They're going to be better this year. I think they're showing that bodes well, but we're only 2 games in. I want to win some silverware. I stayed at Fiorentina for a bunch of years. My dad played there, whatever. Then I move on. It's an acrimonious move. I then Juve lay an egg and are bad for several seasons. I don't get to enjoy the benefit of that. I get injured. I want to go to a team that can compete. And if Juve are going to start a rebuilding cycle, I'm open to a move. I think that's the message from his part. The question for me would be, from Liverpool's perspective, how do I, medical thing aside, assuming he's fully fit, how do I value that? Because it's not the fee. It's going to be the contract that he signs, right? If he's going to want the same money that he's on, and I personally think, Edwards and Hughes can drive a pretty hard bargain. I think that's kind of been the theme around Europe this year, right? People are spending more money on younger players. Older players are kind of finding that people don't want to give them those huge salaries anymore. Guys on big salaries are difficult to shift. If they can, say, give him a 3 or 4 year deal where he takes a little bit less money, then I think this deal, as far as Chiesa is concerned, can get over the line.
Yeah, fingers crossed that would make a lot of sense. And I've not asked you about this one because I am intrigued by his personality. I know little of it, but the things we can sort of dig up or look at places, social media and genuine sites. English speaking, he seems to be, naturally has that football pedigree from his father. Is there anything you can tell us around his characteristics or how he's known in Italy at all?
Okay, so he's not somebody who speaks to the media very often. It's not that he's sulky. I don't know if he's shy, but he's not the guy. He's not the guy who stops in the mix zone afterwards to yak it up. He's not Jamie Carragher as a player. There to give you he's the opposite of that. I have heard him speak English. He speaks close to flawless English, and that's because he went to an international school as a kid in Florence when his father was playing for Fiorentina. His father was a phenomenal footballer. There's a wonderful clip on YouTube when he's like 5 years old and he's running around, and there's a camera crew there to interview his dad, and he says something to the effect of like, "Oh, don't talk to him. Like, I'm going to be much better than dad." And again, his father's one of the most gifted players. Maybe never quite got all the recognition he deserved. So that's good. So in terms of, I think, settling language-wise, obviously, you need to learn Scouse. Ha, 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 I made that joke, predictable. But no, like, there'd be no issue there. But yes, he's not the kind of guy who's going to go off the pitch. On the pitch, he's got a ton of personality. Off the pitch, he's never had any problems. He's never had any issues that I know of. I think he seems to be kind of pretty quiet and focused on his football.
Real, yeah, ticking all the boxes, it seems, by the sounds of it as well. And the only other thing, and again, as you say, you mentioned certain social media presences, no one ever quite knows what's real, shall we say, until it happens. There has been suggestions that Barca could be interested, and I know Barca naturally have their financial challenges. Have you heard anything about that? Do you think there could be anyone else involved as a potential suitor for Chiesa at all?
I don't see the Barca angle. I don't see the logic in it now. Like, Barca just had to rip up Ilkay Gundogan's contract so that they have a shot at signing Dani Olmo. I don't think that's a reality for Barca right now. In a year's time, maybe when he's a free agent, if he doesn't sign for Liverpool. But otherwise, no, look, it's possible he says, "Hey, Juve, rip up my contract," or, because look, the other thing is Juve could give him away for free and they'd still be making money, right? Because of all the money he's earning this year, they'd be saving money. So yeah, that's possible, but then that would have happened a long time ago, I think, if that was the case. So I think he'd have to make a major personal sacrifice to do that. I don't think Barcelona need him because that Lamine Yamal fella, I think, is pretty good, right? Yeah. Is there some scenario where they sell Rafinha and Ansu Fati or whatever, and then they need somebody? Maybe, but we're so close to the end of the window. I don't see that as a viable option. But if I can chuck one back to you, all right, forwards. Obviously, Mo only has a year left.
Yeah.
Does it mean somebody needs to go out, or do you need that many forwards?
My take on it is that,
educate me here, because I look at it like there's a lot of bodies. There's a lot of games. There's a lot of bodies there. Harvey Elliott can also play in the front three if necessary. So yeah, I was just curious about what your take is.
My take is that as it stands right now, there's no natural cover for Mo Salah. People can come in like Harvey Elliott, do a job, but we don't have someone that has sort of the pace of Chiesa and that experience and ability who could come in and rotate. For me, personally, there's a risk involved. You don't want to harp on too much about a player's injury record, but sort of bottom line, the way I see it is, Edwards and Hughes, I think, we'll be looking at and thinking, if we can strike a deal for somewhere around, as you said, 12 to 15 million, which would allow us to have cover for Salah, maybe rotate him a little bit as he gets older, and it also gives us two for every position, as in Salah, Chiesa on the right, Jota Nunez in the middle, Gakpo Diaz on the left. That is a real strength for us, and it actually means Harvey Elliott becomes our rotation for Dominic Szoboszlai as number 10. I do think, as you say, that the thing I can't get away from is the price. And it's interesting you say they've just got that bit to amortize. I do wonder if Hughes and Edwards are there thinking we can push this right to the last minute and get him for around 10 million, even lower, how low they're prepared to go on that, so to speak. But I do think he comes in, probably, long story short. But I might be wrong. We'll have to see. But if it does happen, a rotation who has a chance to then, can he make the first team?
Yeah, I know that. I think that's really interesting. I mean, I just the other thing to add is if I'm Chiesa's agent, obviously every penny that you save in the fee to Juve, I'm going to say, hey, take care of me here. On the other hand, and if it's going to be something in that number, I think that also plays into Salah's contract extension as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you also have to think, even if Chiesa does really well, I think the most goals he's ever scored in a season is 10, the league season. Then Darwin has to find his shooting boots, or like the goals are going to have to come from somewhere else, right? So I think these are all the dynamics I think that are going to be considering right now.
Yeah, no doubts about it at all. And we've got young Ben Doak, who's expected to go, whether it be loan or permanently. But he is a name. The potential's there. What we see is exciting. Even looking at his top speed since that ACL, he is still a quick, dynamic player, as you said. I suppose from your gut, Gab, if it is somewhere in there, and we're sort of on a scale here, a 10 to 15 million range, maybe a decent wage, whether we'll see a decrease, we don't know. But if Hughes and Edwards can negotiate that good a deal, do you see it as a good signing for us?
I think it all depends on the numbers. And, having covered the sport for a long time, one thing I learned is that you can't just you have to think of the fee and the wages together, right? So he's on a big wage now. I think, I don't know how au fait you are with all of Liverpool's wages. I would assume off the top of my head that if he got the same money he's on now, 200 grand a week, he would probably be the second highest paid Liverpool forward.
Yeah, right near the top. Right? Yeah.
So, and again, he would also say, hey guys, are you going to renew Salah? Because I'm good. I have a lot of faith in my ability, but that guy's pretty darn good too, right? So
yeah,
I think all these pieces fit together. And I think I would take, I'm going to put it this way. If he does come and it's a 3-year deal or even a 4-year deal, and it's close to the money he's on now, I would take it as a sign that maybe Mo's not coming back next year, right? Which is another thing of the dynamic that they would consider. I don't know that you would want to spend 200 grand a week for somebody to be Mo Salah's backup, not just this season, but for the coming years as well. Now, I mean, Chiesa can play on the opposite wing. He can't play as a center forward in a 4-2-3-1, but he can do it in different schemes. He's played through the middle. He does have a bit of that flexibility, a little bit like Gakpo, if you will, right? Or Diogo Jota, even more so. But that is a lot. That is a big contract commitment. And again, he's a year away from free agency. On the one hand, he can say, all right, to move to a club where I can compete and in a league I want to go to, I'll take less money for more years. Equally, he could also say, all right, a year from now, I got free agency. I can go wherever I want. I think he also knows realistically, Thiago Motta's not an idiot, that if he doesn't move once the window closes, Motta's going to find a way to get him back into the team, floating around, and then maybe he moves in January. So I think all these things come into the consideration, which what makes this a fascinating decision. And I guess that's why Michael Edwards makes all that money, right? He gets to make these tough choices.
Yeah, absolutely. We are looking for Mr. Hughes and Mr. Edwards to do the business here. And there is only a few days until this window slams shut, so we'll see if this one does come to fruition for Federico Chiesa. All it leaves me to say, as ever, is Gab, for the insight, for the time, for answering all our questions. It is much appreciated, so thank you very much for that.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Good stuff. And ladies and gents, that was another Media Matters special for Anfield Index.